So welcome to the SoulSpark7 Witchy Goddess Tribe call for the month of February. Today, we are pretty excited because we have all journeyed through the sparks and we are ready to find some new material. It's time. So we promised that tonight we would spend a little time on the Moon Journal. There are many of you who have purchased the Moon Journal. Some of you are having a lot of success and others of you are struggling just a little bit. So as I'm here, I'm just going to kind of go through and mute everyone so that nobody has to worry that they have to be super silent or anything. So we wanted to talk about the Moon Journal. We also want to get your feedback on the Moon Journal because our second edition is going to kick some ass, we promise. But the first edition was us getting it out there and using it and getting feedback and then seeing where we need to make adjustments if that's the case. I can already see a couple, and I know Autumn has said there's a couple she would like to see different too. So one of the things that I have, second part, we're still planning to also talk about 3 magical tools tonight. And so we've got the Cauldron, the Athame, and the wand that we're going to be sharing some stuff because we thought it would be really fun to be very supportive with the moon, also to be very supportive with the tools that we use for moon ceremonies or our own personal ceremonies. And then also, you know, we have started showing you on the page that we've got some interest and direction from all of you that are enjoying knowing about the Wheel of the Year. So that's going to be something that we'll touch base with each 6 weeks and keep you posted and informed. So, okay, if you're all ready, let's start on the Moon Journal. I'm gonna lay some stuff out first about it. This is not your typical Moon Journal, as you probably noticed. Right here, what I'm showing you is an astrological reference. When you see this in just after the welcome page, the astrological reference for this Moon Journal is so that we're not always talking about the hunter moon, the strawberry moon, the honeymoon, you know, all those moons, but we're actually working with and teaching you the astrological aspects that are actually happening throughout the month, not just the full moon. So if you have your Moon Journal, great. If you don't, then you know you can just have reference to this too. But so when you actually look at this, you'll be able to see that this is divided into the 12 houses of the zodiac. And the booklet, when we were trying to decide where should this zodiac journey begin, we just decided to start it with Capricorn. And so even though it was like the end of the year as far as the Gregorian calendar goes, it's actually also Capricorn is the new year. So it seemed to make somewhat sense. I don't know if there's actually sense in anything except for that everything seems to be all together and supports. So there's lots of sense in the no sense, if that makes sense. Okay, so through this zodiac chart that you can see here, inside of each one of those, so let's just go to where we're at right now, which is in Aquarius. And so we're going to look right here in, okay, so right on the inside, this is where you'll find the zodiac month that we're in. So here we are in Aquarius. This is where they begin, okay? So Aquarius, you'll actually see the little symbol that is for Aquarius. You'll see the next thing that you go out into the next pie shape. This is so bright. I like a light, but that's almost killing us here. Hold on, let me just turn that down. I'm like, I can't even see it, and I'm trying hard.
Is mine better? Yeah. There it is.
I just gotta tame that down a little. Yeah, that's better, I think. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing that comes up with that, now I can't see it. Do this. Okay, so the next thing that comes up with that, you'll see is that it says the element of the zodiac sign of Aquarius. The element of the zodiac sign right now is air, okay? And then it says phrase. The phrase is I connect. So with I connect, what you're actually thinking about here is community. Where do you find that you can have connection to other things that are going on around you? It might be other people, it might be groups, it might be charity. Aquarius is known as the rebel sign in Western astrology. So with that, you also have change makers. People who are Aquarians are natural trailblazers. They like to rebel and push against the system that has been set for them so that new things can be discovered. So we're looking at I connect. So when we actually start to move into the calendar, I'll show you how that works with this. And then the next thing you're going to see is Autumn has created a tincture, and she's created a tincture called longevity. Now, does that mean you have to use longevity from us? No, but it's just that what longevity represents is that ability to push forward and have the strength as we're at this time of year, as you've all just learned. This is the coldest time of year, just like 6 months from now is the hottest time of year on the wheel of the year. So here we are having snow and cold, and in our minds, because we think December is the coldest time of year, we actually start to think, why isn't it getting spring? But Mother Nature is right on cue right now. And so longevity tincture is what she chose for this time. So you'll also see then the date is January 20th to February 18th. So all these are in this one little pie section. All this information is in this pie section of Aquarius, okay? And the next thing that comes with that is that you will see that Uranus is the planet who rules Aquarius. And also you'll see the symbol for Uranus, okay? And then the next, and that's on the outer ring, and then on the next part right behind that, you'll see that in Aquarius, the full moon is always in Leo, okay? So this is just a guide, a map that will tell you how to start tuning into some of that information. Also, you can ask questions on the page about what each of these things mean, and you can also get information. We'll do our best to continue to flow along with this moon journal and give you cues and hints along with all the other stuff that we're providing here, but how to use this and tune into it, okay, to get you started. On the next page, well, that's where we... Yeah.
One more thing about this pie is, if you notice, if you go from, so we're looking right here at full moon in Leo, right?
Yes.
But if you go directly across from that, you see that the sun is in Aquarius. So the sun and the moon are always direct opposites on the horoscope wheel.
Well, on the full moon they are, but on the new moon they're the same. So a new moon in Aquarius is in Aquarius, the same as the sun.
But the full moon, which, if those of you who've been with us for a long time and have come to our full moon ceremonies that we used to have, the full moon was always opposite of the sun, that birthday that is in the sun.
Yes.
That makes sense.
So that in terminology, we would refer to this as opposition, opposition. So you look straight across that chart, that map that's right in front of you, as Autumn is saying. And what you will find is that when the sun is in the sign of Leo, their full moon is in Aquarius. Leo's full moon is in Aquarius, and Aquarius's full moon is in Leo. Does that make we've said it many ways now? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it helps to bring, and one of the things that I love about that is that when you are in opposition of that sign, the sun and the moon, during that full moon time, you're actually bringing balance into your life, and you have the energy of both of those signs in opposition of one another, which helps to bring balance to both of the signs.
Yes. And really, when we're looking at our lives, what are we doing but trying to create balance and wholeness in what we're doing? And so the point that Autumn is making is super valid, and it's also super helpful when you start to do your moon journaling and looking at some of these, ideas that you're going to go along with. Okay, so let's just jump right over right now to Aquarius instead of rehashing Capricorn. So let's just talk about, since the moon has gone, since the sun moved into Aquarius, which we now know from looking at this little chart that those dates are January 20th to February 18th. That's the sign of Aquarius, okay? So during that time, every 28 days, as you know, our moon cycles and hits every zodiac sign. Does that make sense? So the moon in this month of Aquarius is going to hit every one of these zodiac signs because the moon moves fastest. It only takes 28 days for the moon to hit all the zodiacs, where it takes a year for the sun to hit all the zodiacs, okay? That's how we have our birth dates, right? So the moon cycles through these every 28 days. That's why you have the charts that talk about the element, the air, the earth, the water, the fire, because with that, you now understand that if the moon spends 3 days in a water sign of Cancer, like it is right now, you're going to have more emotion coming up. You're going to have more of this feeling of also more intuitiveness, your intuitions, like everything that's about water, right? Does that make sense? And at any point in time, if somebody has a question, either make yourself notable or wave so that we'll know. Okay. So this can go really deep. This moon journal it's honestly got so much information to it, but if some of the simple things like understanding what the elements are doing in your life is void for you, you're not sure about that one, then we can actually, post some more things about the elements. You can look it up on the internet and start to understand what the elements are doing in your world. And every 3 or 4 days, they're changing. Okay, so going back to this page that has, gosh, what does it take to see this? Maybe that's it. Okay, so this page is the beginning of Aquarius. And at the top, you'll see that there are crystals. Okay, so these are the suggested crystals that you can use during this month of Aquarius. After that, we also have the other things that were on the map, which is the tincture, longevity, so it's a repeat. And we have the phrase, I connect. And then you've got the power and intention. So the power or intention for this month, beginning, new beginnings, healing, money, protection, strength. These are those parts that are all about Aquarius. This is what Aquarius represents, the rebel represents, okay? And then of course, right below that, you reference the element of air, and you have the alchemical symbol for air. That's what that little triangle with the line across it is. That's the alchemical symbol for air. All right, and then here you have a basic calendar. And the reason that we did this basic calendar is that we don't want to date this book and have to print a new exact calendar every single year. And maybe some people, what is it when you get a planner or a calendar and you're in June, you can, I'll just wait and get it in December, kind of a thing. So we wanted this to be something that you could put your own dates in. So you fill in the date, you look at the calendar, or we use a moon app. And I know we've mentioned this before, but on the phone, we use an app. I use an app that is called Moon Phase. And in all of my astrology classes and things, I recommend Moon Phase because it looks like this. It pops up and it tells me right now that we are in a waxing gibbous and that we are in the sign of Cancer and that we're almost to a full moon. So the little picture, kind of shows me that too. Okay, so fill out your calendar with the dates and put where your full moon is, where your new moon is, when you're at the point of building up or you're waxing to the full moon, or when you're waning away from the full moon. Okay, so that's what this calendar is set up for. Dropping back to the front of the book, there's a moon chart. This one is actually right after how to use this book. There's the instructions, but then, and what each of the moon phases mean. Gosh, it's so hard to see in there. So what each of the moon phases mean, okay? And then the next page over is a cycle of what the moon looks like. And so if you're new to really paying attention to the moon and understanding when it's waxing or when it's waning, this little chart will assist you. I'm not saying that you're not going to have to put a little effort into what you're learning, but it's here and you can make notes on it. And this is a tool that you can use to learn how to do and understand the moon. And once you practice it, it becomes something you look up into the sky and it's like, oh, the waxing moon. Okay, and you'll start to get into a rhythm and a flow with it. I mean, it takes a while, but you know, there are times if I'm on flow with this and I'm checking into it, I put my dates in my calendar, I'm a lot more aware of what's happening with my energy because of the element, right? So.
And other people's energy.
And that's a really good point. And other people's energy.
Because yesterday, my husband is a Cancer. And yesterday he was kind of moping around the house and it just wasn't very lively. And I'm like, what the heck is up with him? And all of a sudden, because I get alerts on my phone when I have a new moon coming or a new full moon coming, and it said, suddenly it dings and it says, the full moon is in Cancer. I'm like, oh yeah, because every time the full moon's in Cancer, he gets kind of melancholy. And I'm like, oh, that's what's wrong with him.
So you bring up a good point, because I just said we're going to have a full moon in Leo, but wait, it's starting in Cancer. So this full moon actually is going to go through 3 signs. It's going from Cancer, which is water, emotions, to its true fullness will be in Leo, which is fire. Okay, that's passion, that's igniting, that's direction, that's movement, that's also destruction, right? So sometimes things come apart. And then it will end in Earth, which is Virgo. And then it will move out into the waning moon, right? So we're going to go through a few things in the next Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yesterday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of this month's moon. So here we go. All right. So the next page is when you're at the time of new moon. Now, I will full on say right now that the next edition of this book is actually going to go new moon, first quarter, full moon, with the full moon ceremony and the full moon spell right there instead of at the end. And then it will be waxing moon or second quarter, right? So, and we'll probably use both those terms, first quarter and waxing, and second quarter and waning. That way, whatever your reference to the moon will be easier. So here we are. If we just go back to 2 weeks ago, when we were at the point of the new moon, there are prompting questions that are really meant just to give you some forethought into what just to give you ideas, what you might want to create in this new moon. So the prompting questions for new moon are, what will I create? What new ideas do I have? And what projects do I want to try? It doesn't mean you have to answer every single one of those, but they're prompt questions. And now you're thinking, okay, so the new moon is going to be in the sign of Aquarius. It's an air sign. That's thinking, what kind of new thoughts? Where am I at with my mental treasures? The mental treasures. Is this a good time for me to write a book? Is this a good time for me to, create a new quiz for something? It doesn't have to be huge. It can even just be, is this a good time for me to start a meditation, right? So something that's using the mental treasures, all right? And then as the week passes, of course, by that time, you've moved most likely, if we went from air, you went into earth. Nope, you went into water. And so as the week passes, what am I noticing? What did I try? What am I feeling at this point in time too, right? So what have I enjoyed as I tried new things? So these things, it becomes like this journal for you to track your own personal progress. It's not necessarily a goal sheet or a competition. This is like this deep inner work that you're going to do, because moons are about your emotions. Moons are about how we feel on the inside. It's not always about our self-expression. That's the sun. But as Autumn said, the sun influences it, right? Because you're in a sun sign of something each month. But that is the kind of the outward expression. But when we're talking about a moon journal, we're really looking at where are we at with our own deep inner stuff? Are we getting enough people connection? Are we getting enough personal time? Are we taking some time to exercise? You know, whatever it might be, but it's about us and it's about our inner world, and even our shadow side. You know, and think about when the moon is dark, new moon, it's a shadow moon. That's when we're really quiet. That's when we feel naturally drawn to want to go within and less likely to want to be super social, right? Full moons are a little bit more about social or waxing on. First quarter moons, you kind of come out of that. You're ready to be a little bit more involved. But new moon is at least a day of some time for you to integrate. What are you going to do this next month? Every day of our life's a journey. What are we going to do with it? Okay, so are we moving along in a way that everybody's understanding, and are there any questions or comments about the moon journal so far? Good. Okay. Then we, as you, just right here, you'll end up going through like the next set of prompting questions throughout that week are, as the weekends, what are my observations and awarenesses about my creations? You know, what am I doing with those? Have I done anything with them? You know, sometimes we'll put intentions down and it's just not the time. It felt good for a moment, but sometimes we do fulfill, right? And then which of these things will I continue to do more of? What did I like about what I'm doing right now? Okay, so then you come over here and this extra page, so it seems, because here it says new moon and it has these boxes of stuff you can fill in, but then on the back side it says new moon and it has the calendar again. So this is to calendar out the week in specifically. So you can actually put thoughts, feelings, notations, or whatever about each day. And if you just fill those days out and make it a practice to take a look at it and feel in for a moment, you can use this journal in such a way that here's your 7 days that you're in the new moon phase, basically. No, a new moon, it doesn't last 7 days, but there's a new moon phase, right? Because the moon is in 4 quarters, basically, with 7 days each. So that's where this 4 separate sections of 7 days of calendaring come in, okay? And then you do the same thing. You move into first quarter, and first quarter, that's the next 7 day. And so there are the same pages. They have different prompting questions. You know, what are my intentions? What I must do more of? I mean, these are just their prompting questions for the first quarter. And you can fill this out or make notes to yourself. And then first quarter has another first quarter page, which is that 7 day week. Okay, so at the very beginning of each of the zodiac months, this is your quick reference to everything. If you just take some time and fill it in. This way you can go, oh, wait, snap, what is that? Oh, we're on water sign on this day, right? And then you can kind of give yourself some hints into that. The other thing I want to point out about this page, I don't think we'll put this one here, this little category. I think it was for spacing last time, but this is the full moon spell, okay? So this spell tells you everything that you need to have and do to create a spell for the full moon, to complete your intentions of whatever that may have been as you started to build up to that full moon on that 3rd week that would be in your journal. Does that make sense? Everybody there? Okay. So with that, it will tell you what supplies you need. And also remember at the top of the page, it shows you crystals and stones for the month. So if it requires any kind of crystals, or you want to use crystals on your altar, or you want to put crystals, you know, out under the moon at this particular time, these are just the ones that are recommended for this particular month. And it was Star that created that part, and she's a great spell writer and crystal magician. So she put all that part together for us. All right, next. So this is where I kind of feel like it gets a little bit messy in people's minds, because it got a little messy in my mind after I got the book. So now we move up to full moon. So we have those same pages that we've been discussing, but then there's this full moon ceremony. So you have 2 things that are really accumulating throughout the time for you to focus on the building up and bringing into your life all that you want for the first half, the first 2 weeks of a moon cycle is about building up and bringing what you want in. And then you have the full moon time, and then it's time to wane and release what you no longer need. So it's really magical because you're bringing in with consciousness and intention, and then you're releasing after the full moon with consciousness and intention. Okay. And then there's different ceremonies. Each month is a different ceremony that we actually did these ceremonies at our SoulSpark7 moon ceremonies and created these ourselves. These didn't come from anyone but just us. Okay. So this is the stuff that we do and did on those particular full moons. So you can read through these ahead of time, and that way it gives you an idea if you need to have certain time prepared for yourself or what night you want to mark it out and put it on your calendar, and then actually start working toward the idea of the ceremony and the spell working together. So for example, in this one, there's actually this month coming up. So for this weekend right now, there's moonlight water that you can make. And it teaches you, why and how you'd want to use the energy of the full moon. So you could choose right now, do you want to create some of that moonlight water under the Cancer full moon or under the Leo with the fire, right? And then you put little labels on it so that you know what you can water your plants with it. You can put it into your own water. You can cook with it. You can do everything. Just spray it around the room, spray it in your mouth. But the idea is that it's another support for what magic you're already connecting yourself with the moon. Okay, and then after that, after the full moon ceremony, then we go into Pisces, which will be on the 19th of February. We move to Pisces, and we start a whole new cycle that's not just about a moon, but it's about the zodiac, the element, the phrase, the tincture, the crystals, the spell, and the ceremony. So it's all there for you, but it does take time to kind of take your brain out of, maybe out of left brain to right brain creativity. And I do believe we can line it out better on the next round of journals. So, okay, feedback. Anybody, talk, questions. What do you think? When they get this recording, they do not want to see me sitting here staring.
I will also add to what True has said, these prompting questions that are given in the different sectors or the different phases of the moon will help direct you as to if you are building and creating or disposing of and releasing, because that is based on what phase of the moon you're in. So as you're waxing, think about a candle as the wax is dripping and building, right? So waxing is you're creating. These are your intentions, what you want to have more of in your life. So the questions that are there for the waxing moon building up to the full moon are asking you, what do you want to create? Who do you want to become? What do you want to have more of? And then as we go into the waning moon, those are the things that you're releasing, getting rid of. You don't want any more toxic people, those are the things that say goodbye to in order to bring balance to your life. So those questions are based specifically on what phase of the moon you're in. And so we really do welcome your feedback because we don't have many moon kits or moon journals left.
Well, technically we don't have any.
Oh, okay, we're out.
Because I have a person, we have 2 left, and I have a person who has spoken for them. So
okay. So we'll be going to print with the revision very soon. And so if there is something that is really working for you, or something that you're still confused about, we'd love your feedback because we'll be making these revisions and the next one will have updated material.
Good, very good. Okay, so with that being said and done, and nobody seems to have any more questions about it, maybe if you just jump into it and start using it, that will help. Does anyone have any successes that they've had with the Moon Journal, or is everybody on this call not on the Moon Journal at all? Just kidding. Okay, should we move on to Witch's Tools?
There's no questions. Let's do it.
Okay, we'll keep it rolling and move on to Witch's Tools. So Autumn is going to describe and talk about the wand. And if you want to go, why don't you start?
Okay. So the wand is associated with the element of air, specifically in the tradition of witchcraft. Now, if you get into some of the other traditions, you'll find that the wand is associated with the fire element. But for me personally, being an air, I'm actually a triple air sign, the wand has resonated with me for many, many years. And so I have adopted the principle of using the wand. Now, everybody has a built-in wand, and that's this, okay? Your finger. Your finger is a built-in wand that you don't have to have something external from yourself, but it's used to direct energy and power. So you can use that wand by saying, I love you. And with that pointing, the energy of love is actually coming out of that, and you're shooting that onto people. Now you can use that in a negative way too. When you shake your finger at your kids and you say, I've had it with you, you know, it gives you a different mentality about how you're using these tools, because they're really powerful tools built right in. I use my wands for a lot of different things, for chakra healing, for energy work. I use them in spells and invocations. I use them to charge my stones, and particularly my crystal grids. I have a lot of crystal grids around my home, and I use my wands to charge them and draw Reiki symbols, because I'm a Reiki master. And so I use my wands to charge all of my grids around my home. And you can also use them in your moon ceremonies to draw down the moon. So I brought a bunch of wands to show you. This is a selenite wand, and this is a jade wand. They come in a lot of different materials. This is metal, and it has the colors and stones of the chakras. It has a little angel on one side and a crystal point on the other. I have a lot of different wands, and you know, it just depends on what I'm doing with them. There's also what's called the 9 sacred woods. There's actually 10, because there's one wood that we actually don't burn, but there are 9 sacred woods. And so you can get wood, and this is one that I made myself here. And I don't remember what wood this was. I actually picked up this piece of wood when I was on vacation one year in Whidbey Island. And this one really strange stick was laying in the middle of the road, and it didn't match any of the other woods around. And so I was really fascinated with it, excuse me, and brought it home and made my own wand out of it. So this one is actually made on a lathe, and it's turned to make it nice and smooth and uniform. But you don't have to do that. True and I did a wand making workshop up at a retreat we did up in the mountains last year, and we made wands. This one has some angelite beads and some rabbit fur on it. And then you can use a wood burner to, This one says Priestess of Peace that I burned into it. And you can wrap it with leather or whatever you want to do. I actually will, that says ONF on it at the end, and I do that to remind me where I got the wood, because that one came from the Olympic National Forest. But I'm always picking up sticks and turning them into wands or drumsticks. And then I got to where I had so many, I couldn't remember where I got them. So I started marking them to remind me, you know, where that piece of wood came from. So wood's taken from nut trees like hazelnuts. That's pretty common when you buy these wands. You'll either find them from hazelnuts, sometimes hawthorn, sometimes ash, and cedar wood is pretty common. Oak also. Oak is associated with strength and protection. So each one of those 9 sacred woods are associated with a different trait. Oak being, you know, strength and protection. And I can post some more about that, what those 9 sacred woods are and that type of thing. So the whole practice of using a wand is the mindfulness about every single part of the wand. You know, what kind of wood did it come from? What does that wood represent? Are there stones on the wand? What do those stones represent? And then how are you going to use it? Are you going to use it to charge your crystal grids? Are you actually doing energy work? And if you are, do you want to bring a wand in to help you send that message into the other person? So a lot of times when I'm doing a private session with someone, I like to use this wand, the one that has the chakras, chakra stones on it. And I'll actually draw my Reiki symbols on each one of their chakras as I work down their body. I usually start at the crown and I work down their body, and I'll draw my Reiki symbols on their chakras with one of my wands to balance those chakras out. It's the same thing as a pendulum in a lot of ways, because you can use a pendulum also to, and we're not talking about pendulums tonight, but you can use a pendulum to test the chakra and see if it's open or not, and kind of like a wand too. And let's see, wands are also associated with the masculine or the god energy versus the goddess energy. So it's a little stronger energy. The masculine is a little stronger than the feminine energy as far as using it in healing work. You don't have to use it on other people. You can do the exact same thing on yourself. To open a chakra, you can actually use the wand here at one of your chakras, say, and just spin it in a clockwise fashion. And that will, you can use it at the top, go down on your chakras, each one, spinning it in a clockwise fashion to open your own chakras. And if you want to make your own wand, rather than cutting a wand from a tree that is living, it's kind of a guideline is to take a piece of wood that has already been discarded naturally from the tree. The tree has already given it to the earth, rather than going and cutting it from a live branch, because that's kind of killing the killing the wood, taking it. But if there's something that you really, really, really want with a wood to make a wand, and it is alive, then take a few moments to get in tune with the tree or the bush and ask permission to take it. And if you get a yes, go ahead and take it and leave an offering. So a lot of times when I'm out in nature on a hike or something and I'm like, oh, what is that piece of wood? or I've never seen that before, or there's just something special about it. Obviously, I'm not packing around a lot of offerings with me usually. So if I don't have anything, I'll give a piece of my hair as an offering, or a penny, or a stone if I have that in my bra, which a lot of us do. And then just remember that where you're pointing the wand, you are sending energy. So you want to be sure that you are balanced within yourself before you make that next step of pointing that energy at someone else. My last wand is kind of large. I'll show you. It's actually taken from a root, and it's really, really long. Look how long this thing is. Just goes on and on and on forever. If you can see that, it's like huge. But that was one of those moments where I'm walking down this mountain pathway and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this root. And I ended up bringing it home. And I don't know if you can see, but like where the little crooks are, right in there, I actually filled that with glitter. I filled it with glitter first, and then put the clear stuff on it to make it shiny and hold all that together. And so that's like my princess wand. Or if I'm going to send really strong magic to someone, I'm like from a distance, like I'm blasting those people with energy, or I can use it to just blast a whole entire circle. If we have a moon ceremony going on, I'll just take that big one and just blast that whole circle around. The other thing you can do with wands is use the wand to cast your sacred circle. So those of you who are in True's class, you probably already learned this, I don't know. But these are really powerful tools to cast your sacred circle and to close the circle too when you're finished. Any questions on that, on the wands?
You did an awesome and very comprehensive and detailed description of what we can do with wands. I couldn't think of one other thing I would add to that. Other than it's really fun to make wands.
It is. She and I both love to make wands. When you are using these tools, and I don't know if True has taught this in her class yet because I've only made it to one so far. But when you're using sacred tools, no matter what tool it is, be sure that you consecrate it first for the work it is going to be doing for you. You don't just buy something and then start using it, because every person who has touched these items, from the person who mined the stone, to the person who soldered it, to the person who designed it, all of those people's energies have been put into this tool that you're going to be using. So you want to be sure that you clear all of that energy from it, and then consecrate it for the work that you personally will be doing with it. Okay?
That's a super great reminder. Want to talk to them about when they consecrate it, which elements to use and how to do that?
So you consecrate it. You can do it different ways. There's a really long, in-depth ceremony that True and I use when we teach a wand class, where you use all 4 of the elements and you consecrate it with earth and fire and water and air. Spirit. I'm like, what's the other one? Air. And spirit. Some people, and I don't think that there's one way better than another, other than the full ceremony gives you a little bit more time to connect with the tool and really bring in the power of all of the elements. But sometimes you get a really cool tool and you've got somebody coming, or you just want to try it right now, and you can pass it through your smudge, your sage, you know, the smoke. If you know how to make holy water, you can use your holy water to spray it and consecrate it. You can leave them out under the full moon. You can write the intention and wrap the paper around it and then put it under the full moon. So there's lots of ways to do it. You have to find which way resonates with you.
That's good. Really good. I will add one thing to that because it was part of my high priestess study, and that was that every single tool we use, we actually did a journey to the inner temple, and or we could also call that a meditation where you actually commune with the spirit of that tool, and that tool actually will bring you information about a deeper meaning for it than what you just think you know about the tool. So that's a pretty cool thing to do too, is add a meditation if you want to, as you're building your tools, and really make them custom to you. I can guarantee you, and so can Autumn, that they will work harder and with you more accurately if you take that time with them. But like she said, if you need to just do something fast, do some smudge. It works.
Mm-hmm.
But do take some time at some point.
When we did our wood making workshop, we were up in Hobble Creek Canyon, and we had consecrated our new wands, and we were in the middle of a meditation, and True and I were actually doing a drumming shamanic ceremony as we guided our students through their consecrating meditation. And we looked up, and 2 deer had come down the mountain and were standing right by, and our students all had their eyes closed. They were all lying down, and they didn't know this was happening, you know, and True and I could see these 2 deer came down, and they just stood right outside of the circle. The entire time we were drumming, they stood there and watched us do this. It was so freaking amazing.
And then what was the bird? There was a specific bird woman. What was it that after that too? Was it a hawk?
That was a hawk, a red-tailed hawk.
It was hawk that came flying through too.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, you know, our connection to the oneness of everything that is so amazing. So amazing. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the cauldron. So the cauldron, some of us know the cauldron as a symbol for water. Obviously, it can hold water, but also as a cauldron of Caradwen, the triple goddess. And the 3 powers of Caradwen and the cauldron are inexhaustibility, regeneration, inspiration. And when we're working with the cauldron, it's that space, like when akin to the mother's womb. You know, you have the womb of the mother goddess where basically all life begins, ends, and regenerates from, right? So the cauldron is that place. Sometimes, you know, pop culture is like the cauldron is the place where the witch throws all the bat teeth and the bones and the little children, you know, if they happen to be flying through the woods and she catches them, you know, because we have all these funny stories out there what the cauldron does. But even in the myths of some of those fairy tales, there is a deeper meaning beyond that. And it's not just the wicked witch and the idea of, you know, the cauldron over the fire burning the brew together. But it is all about the symbol of the goddess and the water element. It's also reincarnation and immortality and inspiration. These are cue words about the cauldron. So when you're working with the cauldron, much of the time, it's very heavy cast iron, and it's a working tool. So if you don't have the time to like make a fire to dispose of some of the things that you've been working on, right? You wrote a spell and you need to light it by fire. You can literally put it in here and burn the spells. It's not going to hurt anything or burn anything down. And then when you're finished, cover it so that the ashes cool, and then take the ashes out and put them into the earth. So we're regenerating what we started with. So we started with an element of spirit, right? Our connection to spirit and the divine and what we want to use for. And then we add in air and fire as we pull this together through our thoughts, and then through actually igniting it, putting the thoughts down on the paper, or the thing we're releasing at the, say, at a full moon time, okay? And then using the cauldron, the belly, the womb, to regenerate and basically inspire us to release and let go. And then we're putting it into the earth. So we're connecting with all those places. Let's see. I think probably that's some of the most used, the most of the ways that I use this. For me, the water element is, I recognize it on all of my altars to the west. So also from the west comes that place of deep introspection. And the cauldron actually is a tool that represents also introspection, because anything that's cave-like or womb-like or cauldron-y, you know, things that are dark spaces, you're going to have that introspective and that place of considering compassion. Compassion is a place there. Compassion for self is huge. Compassion for others sometimes seems easier than the compassion for ourselves. But that's pretty much all about the cauldron and the way that I use it. You got anything to add for that, Autumn?
Yeah, disconnect your fire alarm before you burn your papers. I know that from experience.
There you go. Or step outside or whatever. Yeah, that's a good one. Don't forget to disconnect. Okay, then the other tool is an Athame. And in my observation, I would call it, I would have to say that the Athame gets the most strange looks from people who don't understand what an Athame is about, right? So people are like, why do you have a dagger? Do you kill people? Like, what is that for? That kind of a thing. Well, no, actually.
It's what we sacrifice the children with.
Right, we just before we put them into the cauldron. We can get really warped if we just keep going with this, but we probably won't do that. Okay, so the Athame is a very personalized tool. Most of the time, jumping back to the cauldron, I think that most of the time a cauldron is going to look pretty much basic and like this. There are others out probably that are customized or whatever. But when you get to your Athame, it really is something that will call to you. You don't really, most of the time, just find it or somebody gifts it to you, because if they do, you might be, oh, that's so pretty, but it may or may not always resonate. So I feel much like a wand with the Athame. You have, it's a real personalized feel with it. So I've always been very drawn to Isis and the powers in Egypt. So my wand, or my Athame, I've had this for probably 25 years. And it is the goddess Isis with all of the scarab beetle and all the markings of Egypt on here and the magic that has come through that. The Athame is used, though, to cut through the crap, to cut through the energy, to move cords. Like when we do cord cuttings, we pull out our Athame. And so, you know, on myself, I will show you, you know, I might do something like this where I'm actually cutting cords away from myself. You know, if I've got stuff going on, I can cut energy away. Just as Autumn said, the wand is in your finger, we also have a built-in Athame. The same thing can be done with our own hands. Usually it's the two fingers to represent the Athame, okay? So the Athame also is about, it's kind of two sides of everything. It's the healing and the harming. It's the creation and the destruction. It's the light and the dark. It's both sides are necessary and both sides need to be controlled at times in our lives, right? So when using the Athame, definitely making a connection with that and understanding that sometimes you're actually, it is the sign of fire. So sometimes you're actually inspiring and all the things that are for fire, like passion and inspiration and starting of new things, but also you're destroying things at times too. So the Athame is used both ways very much. Also, you'll notice that it's a symbol for the god as well because of the phallic nature of the Athame. And in my studies as a high priestess, sometimes we mix the energy up by calling fire from the east and air from the south, which does make the wand and the Athame interchangeable with what direction that they actually come from. It's interesting because if you've been used to calling air from the east and fire from the south, and then you suddenly change that and you call fire from the east and air from the south, it will intensify the circle that you're in, especially when you've become used to the way that you've cast your circle and what you've been doing with knowing these elements from what direction, and suddenly they're coming from a new way. And it does mix up the feel in the circle, and it definitely intensifies it. So let's think, is there anything else we would talk about this? It's not a tool to kill anyone with. It's not a dagger. And it is to cut through energy. It cuts through the energy around. And you can actually, as you do with the wand, like I said, they're interchangeable. You can actually cast a circle and call the directions with your Athame as well, and then close the circle. So the Athame and the wand are interchangeable, but they are definitely different tools. When we are talking about tarot cards, you'll see that some are wands and some are staves or swords, okay? That's, again, the element of fire, the element of air, and they're represented in the tarot. And then you have the cups or the cauldrons for water, and then you have the pentacles for earth. We could have just gone ahead and talked about pentacles and just tied it all together with 4 elements. Why didn't we do that? You could do that right now. You want to do that right now?
Because we're at an hour.
Oh, we are there?
Yeah,
all
we're
right.
at an hour. I think that's, we can, hey,
Yep.
we could teach a class about this stuff.
This is true. We have to tell everyone goodbye or to answer any questions. Okay.
No questions. You guys are just good students. Oh, wait, does Montreya have a question?
I think she says I'm good, but okay. She's all good. She's fine. Okay. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I hope this was enjoyable. I hope you learned something. I'll speak for both of us. We hope you learned something. And it was fun. The hour goes by so quick. So
thanks for sticking with us all.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
I was reading, and I can't remember where it was on the internet. And I saw someone, asking on the full moon, how you set your crystals out to charge them and cleanse them. And it was an eclipse, and some woman was screaming, "Don't put them out on an eclipse because it drains them." And I wondered if that was true. I'd never heard of that.
I think that there's going to be some different points of view on a lot of things. However, I think it would also, this is where I would look at it at. An eclipse basically takes the moon out of the picture, right? But it's also the sun and the moon crossing each other. So in that sense, you have the shadow, which can drain them, but depending on what sign it's in. So I think there's more than just a generalized rule about that. And I would say be very intuitive about what it feels like to you. Okay. That's how I would, basically, I wouldn't probably be the one screaming, saying, don't, but I would say, check into what element you're in and where you're at with things. How does it feel for you? And what are you doing when you're putting them under the moon? Maybe you're trying to, release energy out of them. So that might be helpful.
Mm-hmm. Plus, you have to remember that you have 3 days, you have 3 nights to work with full moon energy. And so the eclipse is only lasting for a certain amount of time. If that doesn't feel right, do it on, one of the other two evenings.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question. Okay, then. Guess we're done.
All right.
We'll see you on the page, and we'll be recording more things and chatting it up for this next month. And as you know, we're all shifting and transitioning, and it's going to just keep flowing, and it's great for everybody. We're all very excited for Star and what she's moved on to do, and we're proud of her for making a very bold and hard decision. Mm-hmm. She'll be back on our page with us. She's traveling right now, so we will have her joining us and putting her 2 cents in, I'm sure.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
good night,
Good to see your
everyone.
faces. Good night.